You say, we will see if this new medication that's supposed to go on the market, will evaluate it after we enroll 500 people. And then there's a decision. Do we continue or do we stop?
It's actually the predictability that becomes a much more important factor, because what if you even if you save a million, but you do not deliver on time to a consumer, you might lose many more.
My name is Jarosław Kareslak.
I'm Kamil Kramic.
I'm a professor of biostatistics at Indiana University in the United States.
I'm a supply chain expert with a focus on global transformation projects.
I primarily deal with more efficient use of data coming from medical experiments.
I'm passionate about leadership, continuous improvements, and culture in the global business landscape.
So just wanted to say that all the opinions in this podcast are our own, and they do not represent the institutions that we're associated with.
Jarek, we've touched a little bit on, where I actually touched a little bit about motivation and bringing data into the conversations around how to motivate the teams, how to get better results. And it's a great moment right now because people are setting their goals in businesses for the next periods. And I actually, whenever we talk about goal setting within my team or in organizations I've worked with, there's always this this one concept that we try to follow, which is called SMART, which basically just describing a bit of a thing around how a target or an objective should be done, and needs to be specific, measurable, ambitious, realistic, and timely. So it needs to have those parameters around it. And why I do talk about it, and why did I bring this particular subject in? Because while it is measurable and it is ambitious, it's sometimes just a bit of a finger in the air around what ambitious or what measurable means. So it is smart, but how to get to a level, and I'm guessing we could maybe bring something from your world around how to say what ambitious is. So is it 20%? Is it 100? Is it 5? Or,
You know my answer.
I know what you're going to say.
But it's, I think this other word, realistic, because you can of course say so. Let me maybe just give an example from the non-business world. And we talked about it earlier, just in a different setting with those all new weight loss medications, weight loss drugs. Is it realistic if somebody will say, oh, in half a year I will lose 50% of my weight? Realistic, I would discuss, but it might be even dangerous.
Right.
So, if in your company over the past 5 years, each year on average you increase your production by 5%, and suddenly you say, well, this year let's increase it by 20%. I mean, this has nothing really to do with, I shouldn't say nothing to do with the data, but in a sense you use information and you set something that, if you have certain goal, you can set it as 20%, but then you have to ask yourself a question: would you be ever able to motivate people to work, so much harder? Or maybe there's a new technology, maybe there is something that it's not that somebody will have to work 20% harder, but there are some changes that, so let me I'm going a bit around. Maybe 5% is realistic, maybe 20% is realistic. This depends on external factors as well. Yeah.
Okay. So when you design, because I'm making it a little bit easy, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments around the scorecards and the things around there. There's a strategy, so you obviously, there's the data or the facts behind what it is. There's history around that. However, why I'm asking question around as well is more, as always, Jarek, you know what I'm doing. I'm trying to find a single way or a one-sentence answer to something that could be used really quickly around there. So if I say I did have 5% over the last year, and now I'm doing certain elements, whatever. I'm bringing new technology and everything. Is there a way or are there certain areas that people work on around how to quantify that particular thing? Some design of experiments or the things around there that would put it into a model, basically give you some sort of a numerical answer around that.
Well, yes. So let's say you buy a new machinery,
Yeah.
and the manufacturer claims, this
20%, 50% bigger yield,
50% more efficient. But then you have to incorporate that in your current flow of how things are working. So probably it won't be 50% from day one. Yes, because you need some startup time and so on. But you can model that. Yes. So you can come up with something that maybe your high goal is 20%, but you wouldn't really want to go below 10%. But even more important there is, let's say you set up those brackets, monitoring it. Like if you are not even at 5%, understanding why, that's almost more, at least to me, that's almost more important than the actual number at the end.
Right.
It's understanding the process, understanding the elements, and then you can incorporate that in, because of my work in statistical modeling, prediction modeling, yes, and then you can see what aspects work, what aspects do not work.
Right. So it's almost like on the way you look at certain elements and see
what is it measurable. Okay, it's measurable, but also so it's not really smart. I'm just looking at this concept. It has to be so measurable is quantifiable, but also you have to have checks in the process. It's not just measurable at the end.
Right. Okay.
That you actually observe the process.
All right. And then, because I'm thinking, some of the problems come up with the thing. You with that particular subject. For me, you communicate with the outside world. So, obviously, targets and objectives are connected with monetary results. That's quite often, not always, but there's quite a lot of those things there. And I'm just thinking now. I'm really thinking out loud. If you talk to shareholders, the thing, if you change the way that you describe things, that's what we're aiming for. But actually, we're going to use a model and go as we go through the year, and we might modify it, a bit left and right. I guess.
That's more your words. But I actually, you made me think of an example, and again, I'm going more to, I don't say my world, but kind of something I'm more familiar with. If you are a pharmaceutical company, and you want to put a new medication on the market, you have to specify everything at the beginning, what data you will collect, how you will analyze the data, and what the final result. I mean, you cannot know the numeric result, otherwise why do you do an experiment?
Why would you do it, yeah.
But at least the way, how you will approach analysis. An important thing there, it's something called interim analysis. What does it mean? I mean, there are different specifics, but let's say you plan to enroll in your trial 2,000 people. You say, we will see if this new medication that's supposed to go on the market will evaluate it after we enroll 500 people. And then there's a decision. Do we continue or do we stop?
Okay.
So this interim analysis, it doesn't have to be one. It can be, first one, second, and so on. But in business processes, unless you see it running for a while, how do you know if you are? I wouldn't do it after the first week or the first very short period of time because of huge variability, the adjustments that you have to make and so on. But this thing, you have an intervention, you introduce something new, you have to evaluate it. Otherwise, things can go haywire very quickly.
Very quickly around, and actually, it brings a really good point on. I work in supply chain, so and supply chain is cost. There's a lot of cost. I mean, that's what you do. It's always a cost element of it, or cost, or getting the cost down actually, in the right places. But actually, since COVID, since some of the issues that happen in the world of logistics, or the prices, or a blockage in a very specific channel somewhere near Africa, it's actually the predictability that becomes a much more important factor, because what if you, even if you save a million, but you do not deliver on time to a consumer, you might lose many more. And that's why I'm actually asking around the design of experiments in the bits, because in the medical science, for me, the medicine or the drug needs to do what it's supposed to. So the predictability is a really good thing. You almost don't want it to, might be wrong, to to even overachieve certain elements around there, because it might mean something dangerous to a patient or a person.
So this goes also to uncertainty. It's kind of achieving something on average with low variability or high variability. So of course there are certain things, and this was made famous during one of the presidential terms in the US, there are known unknowns, but there are also unknown unknowns.
Yes.
So yes, there are unknowns, but some of them are known. You can, in a war, there's the other army, there is, so you don't know exactly and so on, but at least you know what it is. But sometimes somebody will appear on the field that you didn't know about that they existed.
Right.
So this is one of those unknown unknowns, and some of those things will influence you in different ways.
Right.
So with your example, with this losing a million versus possibly losing many, it's also it's nice to be able to assign some probabilities to that. Or
right.
It's this was a few years ago now, but a volcano in Iceland started spewing, things. This is one of those.
2010, 11?
Yeah, it was a long time, but the whole air traffic over Europe was stopped. I mean, this is one of those things. It happens once in a long while, and sometimes we call it this black swan event.
Right.
That is very rare, but when it happens, it's, things go badly.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But if you can assign some of those, is it probable that, the stock market will fall 50% tomorrow? Well, the probability of that, it's 0.00001 or something like that.
Yeah.
But,
it's still there.
It's still there, but you cannot run business based on very rare events.
Okay.
Yes. Like you couldn't really prepare for COVID. Again, I know I'm going back to COVID, but it's something you have to adjust to once you implement new kind of policies, new supply chain you were saying, and so on.
So it comes back to strategy again, because you have bits like, there's a big area
it's like
in every
playing
business.
poker, yes.
It is.
You can play vabank, yes, and but business, that's usually not
You have this disaster recovery plans or big business continuity plans, but obviously you get to a certain point where they start to cost. It's almost like you have a factory. What happens if you touch wood, if you lose a factory, you start to think of what to do, and you get with again coming back with the probability of that thing. You have to decide of how much do you want to go with it, because the cost of that thing starts to go really high. At the end of the spectrum, basically you build another factory that you have, which is another one that you can use in an event of a black swan, I guess, in this case. Yeah, all right.
But I think and again, this is beyond my area of expertise.
Right.
Maybe you can tell me more about that, but that's why we have insurance, and then we have reinsurance, and then we have, you have to pay for it, but at least it's the spreading of the risk, yes? Yeah. So if there is a disastrous event, that it's not one entity that covers the whole cost, but you have this breaks in a sense built in place.
It's not that particular thing. The issue of insurance in those things is it will pay for the lost profits now, but if you're not there, it will never pay for you disappearing from the market. And there was examples of companies that would just disappear. So they were able to recover that year or that next 3 years or something like that, but they just disappear as a business. Yeah.
About BlackBerry, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This was just it's. I don't know if you saw the movie, the BlackBerry movie.
I haven't. No.
It's. I think it's a great. And again, it's a movie. I know it's a movie. It's. I don't know. It's Hollywood probably, but so it's not all true. But it's interesting business case where not adjusting to the new situation in the market basically company kind of disappeared really. I shouldn't say nobody, but
Sure.
very few people are using BlackBerries these days. Yeah.
In comparison, yeah, right, sure. So coming back to I'm guessing to the motivation or the push. I mean, you want to grow your business, you want to grow you want to overachieve in certain, especially when monetary, elements are connected. I wonder if there's a bigger element that could be done in almost like, how do you deal with a problem? Not only by the effect of your dealings with a problem at that time, because there are unknown unknowns, but how do you deal? And is there a way of actually, getting the people to see how they treated the issue? How did we land it? Although, if you think about it, it all comes back to money then.
It's not. Not so distant past. I was kind of learning more about like business, and I had some executive coaching and like business courses and so on. It's one of the interesting things to me was studying the basically case studies.
Right.
And it's kind of seeing what would we have done differently given the situation.
Right.
And one of the things that I was amazed with was other students who said, of course we would have seen that this decision was bad. And I always thought, if you were there in such a situation, under such conditions, under such stress, would you have made such a decision with the information available then, not now? Right. It's like what they say, the hindsight is always 20/20. Because yes, we know the consequences. So I know you're looking for a one-sentence answer.
I always do, yes.
But the thing is, I would say, and this is something I believe in. Is it a fact? Is it an opinion? Probably more of an opinion, but hopefully educated opinion. Introduce something, but evaluate. And sometimes people forget. And one of the things, and this is again from those business classes, was if we evaluate something that failed.
Right.
We don't evaluate often enough things that succeeded.
That's actually a good point.
Learning, from that, I find it's great.
Yeah. And that's actually that's another question where I wanted to ask you around that, because if I think, and we've talked about publications, we've talked about research in general. So for me, I look at research, it's basically failing a lot, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just like, I mean, success is just a massive thing around there. And now, that was the bit around, do you need to have, I always think, and a lot of people right now think like creating this safe space for failure is really bringing the space forward. It's probably a little bit against what you're saying around let's analyze stuff that worked, not the stuff that failed. But I'm thinking you're allowed a lot more go in the scientific way when you don't have the next day or the next result.
Yes,
or not really?
No,
okay.
Because it's, and I know Europe is different, but in US, a lot of research is done in places in so-called soft money environment.
Okay.
Let me explain what it means. So, and research these days, it's not done only in academia. I mean, companies like the big tech companies and like pharma and so on, they spend tons of money on like research and development, yes. But let me just concentrate on academia. What happens is, actually you have to apply it for money, you have to apply for grants. And these grants, portion of the money in those grants is to support your salary.
All right.
So let's say you apply, and you don't get anything.
Okay.
You don't have your salary. Yes, so you have at least two options, either you try again and ask your boss, okay, can you give me so-called bridge money, meaning that, can I...
To get me to another, of course. Yeah.
But then you are under much more scrutiny, yes, because you applied already so many times. And, I have colleagues who, they are doing good science, they just are not successful in getting money to do the science. Actually, hopefully we'll invite one of them for a conversation with,
yes.
But where am I going with that? and you might correct me here, I think it's, I don't say easier, but it's not as research ending or career ending thing to fail many times in academia. There's more of this landing cushion that you have in business, because in business your product fails, or many of them fail. Either you get fired, or the company
it depends
goes
as well.
bankrupt.
It depends. That was the first time I could actually say it.
Nice.
So I guess it depends on the level, depends of the company. There's massive R&D departments in different companies that will do that. There's an interesting thing. I visited an automotive company in Czechia, which might get you what it is, but and quite a lot of them, they have this on the assembly floor, obviously really timed. The whole thing just goes like a clockwork, and everyone needs to be able to do the things in a very particular tack time. They always, before you even go on the line, you have this like a trial run, and you have to do the exam at the end is almost, you have to like screw like and unscrew a few other things.
Kind of things? No.
A little bit, yes, but and you have to do it, and until you feel comfortable with doing it with that pressure of time, so it creates an environment to fail in a place until you get to a good point, a safe place that you could do it. I guess when you go up the chain, there's different decisions and there's different things around that. But no, it's an interesting bit. So it's not really that. It's actually quite common, I would say. It's a bit of a completely area there. I did a short career, like 2 years, tried to do my PhD, and I failed. And it wasn't a safe place for me to fail over there.
But the thing is, this is one thing I was told when I was starting my academic career. Don't expect somebody to, take you around and tap you on the shoulder.
Right.
It's like, oh, good.
Okay.
That's not the environment. It's kind of sucky, but it's. I try to do it with my students, or the people I work with, the ones I mentor, because I know how hard it is getting your first rejection. We're talking about manuscripts and submitting. Getting your first rejection is actually pretty hard.
Right.
But after my record, it's 7 rejections before I got something published for one article.
Okay.
So it's like you grow like thick skin, or maybe that's not a career for you.
Here you go, growing the thick skin. That's our advice to everyone, regardless of the field you're actually working with, going forward.
But also being more kind of human in interactions with people. I think there's no. I know we're touching another topic, but
there's no harm in doing that. I agree. There's absolutely no harm, and there's actually a lot of good in going there as well. If you find the topics in the discussion interesting, please do subscribe and push the subscribe button, because that will allow us to make many more interesting subjects into our conversation.
Yeah, we will have guests, we will have, we'll talk about other interesting topics, so let us know. What do you think?
Let us know what you think and push that button, please.